You know how sometimes critics say, oh, this is a film with legs, it'll run and run. Here in Brighton, you've got a cinema with legs. It's been running for about 90 years. Now, we're here in the Duke of York's. Was this built as a cinema, or was it converted from being, I don't know, it could be a musical, I suppose?
It does look like a musical, but it was purpose-built, and it is now one of the oldest purpose-built cinemas in the country still screening films.
Well, who did build it?
It was built by a woman called Violet Melnott, who took the name Duke of York's because she actually ran the Duke of York's Theatre in London, built the cinema, which opened in September 1910. And there was a grand big opening with thousands of people queuing up outside, and extra police were called to hold back the crowds. I think there were songs sung and tea was served, and a selection of films from one of the early Hove pioneers of cinema, G.A. Smith.
Now, when you said they showed a selection of films, obviously they'd presumably be shorts, but would they be with actors in stories, or were they documentaries?
I believe it was a mixture of both. They were obviously quite strong on comedy, so just like 2 or 3 minute comedy shorts.
Sort of people falling over, that kind of thing.
That sort of thing, yes. But also I think that there was sort of documentary footage, or just views of Brighton and the south coast.
What sort of people came in on the opening day?
It was a massive crowd. I think it probably held about 1,000 people in those days.
I suppose a cinema like this, built in 1910, has a sort of parallel history to the history of film itself. You know, it started with, I don't know, the silence, black and white, went on into colours and talkies and all that sort of thing. Did it hit this traditional bad patch when television became very strong?
Yes, like most cinemas, it did have a very bad spell in the 70s when I think it shut down for a while and became a bingo hall, of course, like so many of them did, and even held wrestling bouts, I believe, in the main auditorium. Yes.
I mean, they were official, not just among the audience.
Yes, no, definitely official.
Now, I wonder if there was a time when this cinema just stopped showing mainstream Hollywood films and thought, hang on, there's all these multiplexes coming up, we've got to do something different. Was a decision made to say, this will be an alternative cinema in Brighton, showing something a little bit different?
Yes, I think at the end of the 70s, after its really bad patch, it was rescued from being a wrestling hall and became pretty much what it is today, an art house cinema.
But how would you define your policy?
I mean, it is to screen as wide a selection of work as possible from around the world.
Now, clearly this cinema's got a very clearly defined role in the life of Brighton. Do you think it'll be able to just carry on in the way that it's doing now?
Yes, I mean, I'd hope so. I think it will be around for many years to come. I think, and this year's been the most successful year ever. I think we've broken box office records. So more and more people are coming to the cinema. There's more screens in Brighton than ever before, so the fact that our audience figures are going up despite the competition, I think indicates that, we're offering something very special and people do want to keep coming back.
Well, showing films since 1910, eh? But the strange thing is that in Brighton they were showing films before they even had a cinema. Let's go and talk to a film historian. So, Sarah, we're sitting here in this room, which is now a hotel dining room, but it did play a very important part, didn't it, in the history of British cinema. What happened here and when?
Well, in 1896, the first films were shown here by Robert Paul. These were the first films to be shown outside London. So it must have been very exciting for people to come in here and see this.
See, Brighton's often been referred to as London by the sea because it's handy to get to and so on. And there's always been a strong acting presence here. Were there many cinemas in Brighton?
There were a lot of cinema buildings. During its history, there have been over 40 buildings used for cinema.
So I've come down to Brighton particularly to see, of course, the Duke of York's cinema, which is still running, showing films. But what other, perhaps, dead cinemas can I see here?
Right, the Astoria, that was opened in 1933. The Astoria was one of the largest cinemas in Brighton, with the Art Deco shape. Shops underneath, and a ballroom above, restaurants, and that was a very splendid building. The other cinema that still exists as a building was the S02. That was very popular, and it started life as the Imperial Theatre in 1941. That had a large stage. It was so large they showed ballet there as well. The other building that's just about standing is the Coronation. It was later called the Rex Cinema, built in 1911, and that became a motorcycle shop. The ABC, which was the Savoy, and that was opened in 1930. A lovely semicircular facade, very Art Deco. It had a restaurant, had several restaurants, a lot of staff there, 16 usherettes. When they came in, they had to be lined up, and the girls had to show their hands to the manager, make sure their seams were straight, and if they weren't, they had to go off and come back and have it seen to.
Do you think that there's something very particular about the feel of Brighton that suits the Duke of York?
I do, apart from the legs on the top, the legs that hang over the top. Yes, I think as well, what's nice about the Duke of York's is that you have a single-screen cinema, and you can actually go and sit in a cinema and watch a film as you would have watched it perhaps in the 40s, 30s, and that appeals to people as well.
Now, I've seen, while we've been doing Cinema Nation, quite a lot of little cinemas, many of them just kept alive by enthusiasts or lottery money or something like that. I mean, what happens here? Who owns this place?
We're a commercial venture. We're owned by a fairly large company, a company that's growing, City Screen Limited. We have the feel of an independent cinema, completely independent of a chain.
Yes, but it does seem to me that you're not just trying to fill the cinema, and get all the seats taken up for profit. You are actually concerned with cinema.
We have a lot of special events, so we hope to act as a focus for the community, not just a space for people to watch films. We have charity screenings, we have directors in for question and answer sessions, we have a film studies course. We're very much involved in the town itself.
Now, I noticed going into the foyer and up into your little wine bar, coffee bar upstairs, it's not that you can't get cola drinks and popcorn here, but that's rather the minority, isn't it? I mean, I noticed a lot of foaming coffee and glasses of wine and, I don't know, carrot cake.
Yeah, it's part of the tradition of the cinema. It's been here before City Screen, and the elements of the cinema that the customers really like, we kept on, and they loved the carrot cake, they loved the fresh coffee. In fact, the coffee and the cakes get reviewed more often than the films and the local newspapers and the magazines.
So I do get the feeling that the locals here, the people of Brighton, they do cherish this place. They love it, I mean, it is a sort of jewel in the crown of Brighton, isn't it?
Well, I think a combination of the history and the type of programming that we have here, there's a great deal of affection, and there's a pride in the town for the cinema as well.
Thank you.
You've come tonight to what is quite an old cinema with just the one screen. Where'd you pick this one?
I don't know, it's got a much better feel to it, and it doesn't feel quite so commercial. I don't know what it is, I think because they've got the bar upstairs too, it's just like really nice. It's a nice place to come to. It's more an evening out as opposed to like one stop before something else.
Well, it's more friendly. People mill around and talk about the films afterwards, go up to the bar, have a chat. The people that work here ask you what you thought of it.
Will she be coming later?
The staff are really nice, take your cups of tea and just very relaxed, sort of personal.
It's just a very friendly atmosphere. I feel comfortable to come here on my own and see a film. And I think for women particularly, that's quite important.
As you know, Brighton is a multicultural town. There are people from all over the world, basically, and different languages, different cultures, religions, everything. It's really a mixture of everybody. And yeah, the Duke of York, in a way, could actually represent also what Brighton is.
And here at the back of the Duke of York's are those, well, very often referred to, but not very often seen, love seats, where courting couples would come and sit in the back row on double seats. Of course, with my luck, everybody seems to have gone home. Well, it's very pleasant here in Brighton, particularly if you're a movie fan, because there's lots of screens showing all the latest Hollywood blockbusters. But if you want something a bit different, try the Duke of York's, because there's comedy, culture, classics, carrot cake, coffee, and the can-can.